Yo, Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising. Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. And today, starting at our new times, which is going to be 1 o'clock, and we're only going to be doing videos Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. Monday and Tuesday, I got to get more other work done. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now. But I'm glad you guys joined us on the show on Tuesday where we do What's Wrong with the Bible. And we are going through in the book of Numbers today. Make sure I got everything up right. Make sure I got everything the way it needs to be. We're going through the book of Numbers. And we will be at Numbers 20. And 21 today, before we branch off into our independent our different conversations that we just spawn into. Norm. I forgot to change the things on the YouTube. When you come in, let me know who you are, where you at. Change that. Then let's get this thumbnail on YouTube right. I forgot to change that and get it into its playlist. So if you are just now joining us, finding us, and you are interested in going back and looking at any of the other videos, all you got to do is go to YouTube, Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz, or Lorenzo Reed, and you'll be able to click on the playlist and find all the videos from the previous chapters leading up to where we are right now. All right, we got that squared away. Back to the line. Time to light my cigar. We usually wait about 5 minutes to let people get on before we get started with the lesson point. So, if you're on here for the first time, let me know if you're on here for the first time. Oh my gosh. Mara! Some coffee? Cigar. I think the celery that I was eating beforehand is distorting my taste buds a wee bit. Therefore, I need to engage upon a little bit of chocolate to get my taste buds back right. I think the celery threw it off a little bit. So you smell the chocolate first. 80% of your taste is in your smell. And you gotta get the chocolate all around. The coffee should have did. But I guess the celery is strong in this one. Let's test it. Let's see. There it is. There it is. Touchdown. There it is. That's the profile I was looking for. All right, so we're going to get ready to get started. As we get ready, we'll go through a little bit of an overview. So we've been going through the book of Numbers, and last week, when we talked about Numbers, and we wound up doing it on a Wednesday because I had to take it. I think I took my mom to the doctor. Something was going on this. But anyway, Tuesday. Anywho, so right now they're in the wilderness, and they just been told by this guy that they're not going to make it into the promised land, and now they're wandering around the wilderness and they crying and whining. And we're going to see some similarities in that. We're going to see some more crying and whining. We're going to see some non-historical events happen in this next chapter. And we're going to actually, if you saw the video I posted an hour or so ago, the correction as far as why Moses individually is not allowed into the promised land. We're going to go over that. And it's a few other things in this chapter, these two chapters that I'm going to go over, that don't make no sense. And that is just a made up story to benefit a group of people, to give them some type of historical account of who they are. All right, so with no further ado, let us get started. And why does it still say John? Oh, wait a minute. I didn't hit the button. In Leviticus, and we've already done Leviticus, in Numbers 20. Numbers 20. All right, time to put my reading glasses. Do I need my reading glasses? Yep, that's what I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay. So in the first month, the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. There, Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water in the community. Damn. So what do we know about Miriam? Miriam died. They buried her. That's it. The only things we know about Miriam is that, and I meant to look it up again to make sure, I know in the stories that you're told, Miriam was that's Moses' sister, and that when the Pharaoh took Moses in, his sister became his nursemaid, or not nursemaid, but became his babysitter. I don't recall when we were reading Exodus ever seeing anything about Miriam being that. She might have been, but I can't remember off the top of my head if she was. But anyway, what we have known about Miriam in Numbers is that Miriam complained with Aaron about Moses being on top and why Moses should be the man, why God only talked to him. Aaron didn't get punished, but Miriam got punished, and so she would. And oh no, they complained because Moses was on top. And it was like, but your wife, she a black woman. She from the Moabites, and we don't like her. And so they wanted to kick some dirt on Moses, but the only person that got punished was Miriam, and she got leprosy and had to stay outside the camp for 14 days, which was odd because they didn't say nothing to Aaron. It was one of those situations where the woman get a worse treatment than the guy for doing the exact same thing. But here, Miriam is so important that they just said, and they stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died and was buried. Grand Rising, Jeremy and Daisy. So we see again how this book treats women differently than it treats men, because Miriam is obviously not that important. She gets the plain old she died. Okay, to continue. Now there was no water in the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died with our brothers when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into this wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us out of Egypt to the temple, to this terrible place? There was no grain or figs or grapevines or pomegranates, and there was no water to drink." I think these Bible writers don't know how to start a story to have a problem. You know what I mean? When you're writing fiction and you need that thing to get the story rolling or to cause an event, you need that spark. They keep using the same thing. These people cried about the same thing in Leviticus a bunch of times, in Numbers a bunch of times. And every time they cry, and in Exodus, and every time they cry about these things, they get punished terribly. You think they would have learned by now to shut the hell up. Grand Rising, Rodney, Angela. But you think they would have learned by now. But I think the Bible writers just don't know how to start a situation. And they just kept writing the same type. Well, let's just have them complain in the middle of wilderness. Seemed to work the last few times. Grand Rising Debbie. So Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meetings and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. You know, that means it's a whole bunch of smoke and fire. And the Lord said to Moses, take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together. Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its waters. You will bring water out of the rock for the community so that their livestock can drink. Grand Rising LaQueen. So if you remember in Exodus 17, they had something similar to this. So it's a repeat of the same kind of story where he told Moses to smite the rock. Now, smiting the rock in most instances means you're going to hit the rock, right? So in Exodus, he was told to smite the rock. In Numbers, he's told speak to the rock. Now, this is a different time frame. Different time frame. Oh yeah, everybody make sure they like and share videos. All of them, especially the ones I published already. All right, so Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he had commanded. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock? Isn't that kind of an asshole move? The people in the middle of the desert, they ain't got nothing to drink. And I don't know if y'all ever been in the middle of the desert. I've been in a couple of different types of deserts before. And, you know, each desert got its own thing going. But thirst is one of those things you got to guard against in the desert. Now, I've been in the desert of the Sinai Peninsula. So I know that desert and what it's like there. You're going to need some water. So why he acting an ass? Because the people need a nourish what they definitely have to have. But you know why he's acting an ass? So the story can happen. So the Bible can be written. That's why he's acting an ass right here. So the story can happen. Then Moses raised his arms and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But wait, there's more. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I gave them. These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord and where he was proven holy among them. You know what? We got some character problems here. We got some serious character problems in this story, just in this part right here alone. Imagine, if you will, you follow this God and you follow them into the desert and all this other thing, and you need water. Water is a normal thing that you need. So this God makes you suffer without the water. Well, first, he already told you that you're gonna wander around this desert for 40 years. Now you're wandering around and he's not providing you the basic essentials that you need. Neither he nor this Moses and Aaron are providing what you need. So, thank you, David. So I have reason to gripe. I have reason. But then the person who's supposed to be in charge gets angry with us because we need water to survive, and they get mad and says, hey, must we provide you water from this rock? Yeah, I mean, you could have got it from the cacti. You could have found other ways of getting it. You could have well, but you call me a rebel because I'm thirsty and we need water to survive. And then you want to do it out this rock. But then the God gets pissed because it seems like Moses and Aaron are taking credit themselves. I mean, they are the ones who are going to have to do the actual work. You know, it's not like this guy got the power to just make an oasis appear in the middle of the desert. Or like this guy got the power to just make wells just spring up with water. I mean, he obviously don't have that kind of power. So he got to have some humans do the work. Right, Jeremy said water is something we can't live without. Exactly. So then the people, so this guy gets mad because he's petty. He's petty. That's the word I'm looking for. He's petty Paul. Petty Paul, this guy Petty Paul get pissed off because Petty Paul got pissed off at the fact that Moses didn't give him credit for hitting a rock and bringing forth water. So now Moses and Aaron can't enter the promised land. Now I know I did a video and I said that he couldn't enter the promised land because they said this guy said that no one who saw the miracles in Egypt were going to enter the promised land. To me, that included Moses and Aaron. But here, and as I was corrected by a couple of people, here is a direct reason why Moses and Aaron were not going to enter the promised land. But it still, 14 still holds value that he said that only Caleb and his folk and the kids who was under the age of 20 gonna go in there. Now, other people have tried to say that the reason why Moses, the disobedience, that he didn't think that this God, what is it? Because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy. They try to say it's not because he didn't honor him, but because Moses struck the rock twice, that he doubted the Lord, that he should have just struck it once, or that he should not have struck it at all since he said, speak to the rock. So Moses' disobedience in doing it Moses' way, like he did the first time in Exodus, where he struck the rock and the rock poured out water. They try to say that that's why this guy was angry with him, because he demonstrated that he didn't trust him. And my thing is, he did it the same way he did the last time. And the other part is that if this God is mad, what it really says is that because he didn't give him the credit. So you want us to worship this petty ass God? He petty. Petty. It's probably one of those reasons why you got Christians who are always saying that they're always trying to give glory to God for everything that happens in their life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they went to college, they graduated. I just want to thank God because it wasn't me, it was just God that got me through college. Who studied? Who did the testing? If God can get you through college, you shouldn't have to study. You should just be able to walk in there and just take a test and bam, you good. You know, if you didn't have to learn, in order for God to show that he did something, it should just happen without you having to put forth any effort. Other than that, take your credit because you did it. That is all on you. But this is one of those lessons where it's like, don't take the credit. God gonna get you. So Moses is not able to enter into the promised land because of this bull kill. But let's continue. So then Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, this is what your brother Israel says. You know about all the hardships that have come to us. Our ancestors went down into Egypt, and we lived there for many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our ancestors. But when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our cry and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. Now we're here at Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or vineyard or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's road and not turn right or left until we have passed through your territory. But Edom answered, you may not pass through here. If you try, we will march out and attack you with sword. The Israelites replied, we will go along the main road. If we and our livestock drink any water, we will pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else. Again, they answered, you will not pass through. Then Edom came out against them with a large and powerful army. Since Edom refused to let them go through their territory, Israel turned away from them. Now, let me see what y'all saying before I continue. What do you say? What we got? Let me see before we continue. knowing this guy up to Moses' time, why would anybody like Moses trust it? By the time of Moses, this guy character has already proven that it wasn't true to his word. I know, because it's crazy. This guy picks Moses, right? Before Moses even get halfway there, he want to kill Moses because he didn't circumcise his son. His Midianite wife quickly do a circumcision, put some blood on his, I think on his ear or somewhere like that. Put the circumcision blood on his ear. And so he want to kill Moses. Now you got Moses out here. Moses doing his own thing. Moses wild, and Moses not. But Moses not poured the rope on him a couple times as well, and convinced him not to kill everybody. Remember the last week he had convinced this guy not to kill everybody when he was ready to kill everybody. So this all-knowing, all-seeing God didn't know that Moses was not going to be the best. Do everything exactly the way he wanted it to be done, and then is going to get petty when Moses doesn't give him credit for making water come out of a rock. I'm sorry, but if this God has been walking around, we've been having this God, it's by fire at night and it's cloud by day. It's made water come out of a rock back in Exodus, and it did all these plagues and stuff. He should know that the person is going to know, hey, this God is doing all the work. Why it has to be said all the time. Every time something happens, you got to say, well, this God did it. This God did it. That's like those Christians who everything they say is glory be to God. Glory be to God. I was walking down the street, glory be to God. And then I saw a magic mushroom on the side of the road, glory be to God. I picked that magic mushroom, glory be to God. And I threw it away because I didn't want anybody to be tempted by it, glory be to God. Because it was only God that made me see it so that nobody else can get to it, glory be to God. And then I came back home, glory be to God. And the police were standing there, glory be to God. And then they saw me with the mushroom, and glory be to God. They tested my hand and found the residue on it. Glory be to God. And they took me to jail. Glory be to God. But when I got to jail, glory be to God, there were sinners inside the jail, not preached to those sinners. Glory be to God. And those sinners turned their lives over to Jesus. Glory be to God. I had to pay a fine. Glory be to God. But when I got home, there was a check in the mail. Glory be to God. From the insurance company. Glory be to God. Because they had been paying my house insurance more than they should have been. Glory be to God. So all those things worked in the way of the Lord. Glory be to God. So that person in jail can be saved. Glory be to God. I had to be the one to say, glory be to God. I'm sorry. I went on a tangent. My bad. See, I'm telling y'all don't ever want to get to know me personally. Y'all just getting a little bit of the stupidity that happens in my presence. All right, let's get back to the story. All right, so what are we looking at here? Edom. Now, according to this story, it's actually getting hot. Turn this heat off. I got them windows open and it's 50 degrees out there. According to this story, Edom, of course, is Esau's from the Pete tribe. You had Jacob, you had Esau. Y'all remember we was going about them back in Genesis, right? Jacob and Esau, and of course that led us into Exodus and all that. Anyway, so Esau, the redheaded one, the brother that actually was the good brother, the good son that stayed home, took care of mom and daddy, the one that didn't run away, the one that welcomed his brother even after he tricked him and all this kind of stuff. Esau is the father of the Edomites. So when he said that this is what your brother Israel says, he's literally talking about Jacob, whose name became Israel, and how they were brothers. So the Israelites and the Edomites are cousins. So this is fam talk. But the Edomites like, hell no. Remember Jacob, Esau invited Jacob home. Jacob was like, nah, he went somewhere else because he's a lion conniving joker. So they say, you got to go around. You can't roll up through our territory. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. It's basically what they wind up telling them. Blood ain't family because y'all ain't ever treated us like family. And isn't it interesting how Esau wound up, even though he didn't get the birthright, he wound up becoming wealthier than Jacob, or just as wealthy as Jacob, being prosperous. And now the Edomite people are still being prosperous, regardless of this God not being with them. They never, the reason why they went into Egypt, because there was a drought, and they was there for the first 230 some 200 years. So first 200 plus years, they were there and everything was fine. And then they took advantage of opportunities. They had some nepotism going on. Then the last 237, 40, 230, 240 years, they were enslaved in Egypt, according to their story. All right, because we know none of this happened. But the Edomites never, even with the drought, didn't have to go into Egypt, never became part of anybody else's society. They just did their own thing. And they here are still prosperous, controlling their territory, and had a large enough army and a powerful army that came out that the Israelites was like, oh, we just go around. Just don't go around. We ain't about that life. Okay, I thought it was. We ain't about that life. But it's interesting how they're going to treat the Edomites this way. But they're going to be totally different when it comes to other people. And, you know, of course, the Edomites are the ones that the Hebrew Israelites claim these are the white people. Because Esau came out with red hair and all that stuff. Even though there are plenty of red-haired black folk. Actually, that's it. I just realized how idiotic and hilarious I used to sound when I was in my teens and my 20s doing. But thank you, God, glory be. A couple months ago, a Chinese leader changed it. Yeah, wait a sticker, King James. No, but that is funny. I know people still do that. Angela said a couple of months ago, the Chinese leader changed things in their Bible, and in no way is the King James the same as it is in the earliest Bible, so-called BS, because it changes. Yeah, there are plenty of changes that have been made throughout this book in history. Mm-hmm. You said, okay, David. Yeah, so for y'all who just got in here, I'm gonna have to change my days and times because there are certain things I'm not getting done. I'm not finishing writing this book. It's taking me too long to finish writing this book. And me and Angelina started these other video channels, and I ain't been able to get time to those. So lives are gonna be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 1 p.m. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 p.m. Buenos dias, Nikki. Mm-hmm. Thomas said his grandmother on his father's side was a black woman who wore naturally red hair. So you just got cussed out about the Bible. I'm sure she went in on you. I'm guessing it was your mother-in-law. All right, so let's continue. All right, so we know the Edomites. They got punked by the Edomites, and they got to go around. And if I'm the Edomites, I don't trust them either. The way that your ancestors did their ancestors, I wouldn't trust you. Mm-mm. So to continue, we're on where we at 22. So now they got to go around. The whole Israelite community set out from Kadesh. Remember, that's where Miriam had just died. They didn't really say nothing about her, but that was she just died. And they came to Mount Hor. At Mount Hor, near the border of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will not enter the land I give the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. Get Aaron and his son Eleazar, and take them up Mount Hor. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar. For Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will die there. So Moses did as the Lord commanded. They went up Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. Moses removed Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar. And Aaron died there on top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. And when the whole community learned that Aaron had died, all the Israelites mourned for him for 30 days. So Miriam died, and they just like that. She did. Bury her ass. Keep it moving. Time to go. Time to go. Time to go. You like Mister when he was at the juke joint. Time to go. Time to go. Aaron dies, and they're gonna mourn for 30 days because you know we don't really give a shit about you women. You know how that go. Care less about how women are treated in this book. But then, I'm sorry. Out of all the things, Aaron, think about all the stuff Aaron has been doing. When Moses came, he supported Moses in Egypt. He had the stick. He did the snake thing. You know, he helped them with the waters and the blood and led the people out. They got the tent of meeting right. He been doing the sacrifices and everything right. When they killed 2 of his sons for building the fire wrong, he didn't complain or nothing. He just went on about his business and kept on serving the Lord. The one time something go wrong, and Aaron didn't even say nothing. Moses was the one who said, "Must we, you rebels, must we continue to bring your water from this rock?" Aaron just standing there. And Aaron gets punished, and now Aaron gotta die. And then he died on the top of a mountain, butt ass naked. I mean, then he got like what frostbite? Well, they said this was the first month, so that would be like end of April, 1st of May. It ain't that cold in Israel at night, but he got to die butt naked on the mountain, like stripped it down, give you something, and now your son is wearing your daddy clothes that he just died. They just walk on back down the mountain like ain't no rain. Well, this was a perfect comment. What man said? Oh, that was a Lumi. That was Nikki said this. Sounds like a pimp and a whore relationship. So it does. That's just cold. This man made one mistake, and now he didn't even make a mistake. He just innocent bystander. And then they had to go to the top of a mountain, get butt ass naked. His son put on his clothes, and he just died up there. Did he fall off a cliff? Did he die of pneumonia? Was it too cold and at night he died? Appreciate you, Kenny. Grand Rising to all the people that haven't said Grand Rising to just got on. You know, the Ashley's, Kenny's, Kemp, the Queen. Grand Rising to all you guys. I don't know if I missed some other people. Charlene, Grand Rising. Thomas, Grand Rising. Sorry. But yeah, this is some straight bullshit. They just killed a man on top of that. He just, like Jeremy said, guilt by association. This is the ridiculousness of this story, is that it just goes into that. Now, that's the end of 20. So let's do 21. 21, we get to some good old genocide. Now, remember, they were just afraid of the Edomites. Don't be messing with them Edomites. So, when the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negev, heard that the Israelites was coming along the road to Athiam, he attacked the Israelites and captured some of them. Then Israel made a vow to the Lord. If you would deliver these people to our hands, we will totally destroy their cities. The Lord listened to Israel's plea and gave the Canaanites over to them. And they completely destroyed them and their towns. So the place was named Hormah. Oh, where my man at? Where's most real? Where's most real? With his thou shalt not kill. Because if this was a peaceful, loving guy, he would be like, no. Go to the Canaanites. Ask them to return your people, and the Lord will bless their lands with bounty of milk and honey and fruits and flourish and all this sort of thing. No. You want to go kill them? Fine, go kill their ass. I'll make sure y'all kill them too. I'm gonna hand them over to you. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. So they went and killed all them people. And then they traveled from Mount Hor, along the route of the Red Sea to go around Edom. But the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, why? Same bullshit, because they need something, some catalyst. That's the word I was looking for earlier. They need a catalyst in order to move the story. But they keep using the same damn catalyst over and over again. So let's go through the catalyst again. Why have you brought us up from out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food. And you remember the last time they complained about the food by eating the insect shit or the bird shit. He gave them a whole bunch of quail. It gave, what was it, like, came out to like 1.2, 1.4 trillion quail is what they had to have. But they complained again. Then the Lord sent. Okay, wait. So the last time they complained, he broke a rock and they got some water. Before that, when they complained, he gave them quail, 1.4 trillion quail. You know, he gave them some water another time. He, gave them some manna, some bird, insect shit. All in. Let's see how he's going to bless them this time. So the Lord sent venomous snakes among them, and they bite the people, and many Israelites died. He took them on a 40-year road trip and expect them not to complain. Y'all been on a road trip before. I don't know if y'all got kids. I got kids. Have y'all been on a road trip with kids? Like my family vacation, my family vacation, it's about 70, 80 of us, right? And the overwhelming majority of them are children. Not last year, but the year before when we went down to Florida, to come back from Florida, it's a 7-hour drive from Orlando. The ones who was in the vans with all their kids, it took them 12 hours to get from Orlando back to Atlanta. It's kids. I got pee. Next exit. I got pee. Go up my 5 miles. I got pee. Go up another. Also, I'm hungry. You gotta have patience to drive them vans in my family. That's why I don't ride in the vans. I don't. My kids grown. I don't do the van no more. This guy got them out here, and of course they're gonna complain about food and water. It's 2 million of them. That the Sinai Peninsula doesn't, especially back then, would not have had enough nourishment to take care of that many people. All right, just to be real about it, it just wouldn't. It did not. And so they complain. Of course, they're going to complain. And this is a 40-year in the minivan trip. And his solution is to send poisonous snakes to bite the people and kill them. Now, he already made the earth swallow up a whole bunch of people. Then he sent the plague. This was like last week, we talked about that. And then he sent the plague and swallowed up some people in an earthquake. Well, sinkhole. Earthquake. It was a sinkhole. We decided it was a sinkhole. So he sent some snakes, some venomous snakes, to go bite the people. Oh my God. Let me see if I missed any what's on what you guys see. Yeah, they complaining. What say that GPS didn't work 40 years. Well, if this joker would have told me we're gonna walk around here for 40 years, I'm probably gonna if I'm an Israelite, I'm about to call it a day. I'm gonna pull up in one of these other towns. I'm be like, oh, the Edomites, they're my cousins. You know what? Y'all stable. Y'all good. I'm staying right here. I'm gonna stay right here. I'm not following along with this bullshit. I'm good. So the people are ungrateful, just passionate, man. It's only so much you can do at a time. Just be satisfied. Diane, I wish they could, but you gotta have water to survive. You gotta have the water for it. Now the food, you got food. You need to be happy with the food you got. You're in the damn desert. Yes, the name Lucifer does mean to illuminate or enlighten one, the one who brings the enlightenment. But Lucifer is the planet Venus. It's not an angel. It's not a being. It's the planet Venus. Yep, got on the last nerve, sent some venomous snakes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, serial killer. I don't know how this is testing their faith, but Debbie basically said it right. This guy does not like when people complain. You know what? If I was in the church and I was doing a sermon, I would do one called "Stop Complaining to God." Or you might get bit by a snake. You might get burnt by fire. You might you might get swallowed by the earth. You might have to go on top of a mountain and die. Just all kind of. You might get overfed with a trillion quails. Just be like my man. Don't worry. Be happy. Just stick with that. Let me continue. All right. So he sent a bunch of snakes, right? Where we at? Red Sea, sent venomous snake and they bite many Israelites and they died. And many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord take the snakes away from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, now y'all know in the Ten Commandments, it says, do not make any images of anything on earth or in heaven or in the ground, right? That's what he said. Don't make no images, especially no graven images. The Lord said to Moses, make a snake and put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it on the pole. Then when the people was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. So we got idolatry and witchcraft all wrapped up in one. Next time a Christian tell you that they don't practice witchcraft, that the Bible doesn't practice witchcraft, ask them about Moses making a bronze snake, and every time somebody gets bitten by a poisonous snake, as long as they look at that bronze snake before the poison sets in, they good. Now they just like, oh, I got bit. And they keep that, then they gonna die. But if they're like, oh, I got bit, the bronze snake, oh, I survived. I'm alive. But it is. Is that not witchcraft? Is that not what they would call witchcraft? Is that not creating a graven image? Here's an image that we believe has power. That's a graven image. They like to say a graven image is an image that you worship, but it's an image that you give power to, the power of something into that image. I'm just saying. Just like this guy violates his 10 commandments of thou shalt not kill. Hey, let's just go ahead and violate this one too. Let's violate the witchcraft one, and let's violate the graven image ones. Because they sure got it. And then he used a serpent. Ain't the serpent supposed to be some evil thing? But no, of course not. Now, the thing about it is serpents did in the ancient times represent rebirth and wisdom. Because, you know, a snake sheds its skin, so it's rebirth, making anew. and it also represented wisdom. Jesus even said, "Be what sly as snakes and simple as doves," or some shit like that. Peaceful as doves. Some little saying like that. But whenever we get to, if we make it that far, I think it's in Kings. Is it in Kings or Samuel's? But I think it's in Kings. It talks about how Hezekiah, actually, when he became king, he removed the priest from high places, and he broke this serpent that Moses made because of people's worship of this. People will get looking at it as an item to worship. So Hezekiah does change the game a bit as far as this is concerned. I'm looking for a very important. Are y'all hearing me fine? Can y'all hear me? Yeah. So yeah, it could have been talking about Kundalini, because Hinduism it's possible that the people of that era did have contact with the Indus Valley, so they should have known about the Kundalini. Mm-hmm. So now you just got to look at a snake and do a little witchcraft. Little witchcraft. Oh, I meant to look this up before I did this today. I knew there was one other thing I meant to look up. Because didn't we read already? Correct me if I'm wrong. Moses warring against Moab. That was so wrong. Moses warred against Moab, or the Midianites. Oh, that's not till Numbers 31. Okay, all right. We got a little time. That's Numbers 31. I thought it was gonna be. I thought we had already read about it, but I already read ahead on it. so to continue, the Israelites moved on and camped in Oboth. Somebody, okay. Then they set out from Oboth and camped in Lai Abraham, in the wilderness that faces Moab towards the sunrise. From there, they moved on and camped in the Zered Valley. They set out from there and camped alongside the Armons, which was in the wilderness extending into the Amorite territory. The Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. This is why the book of wars of the Lord says, Zahab in Suphah and the ravines, the Arnon and the slopes of the ravines. I'm gonna come back to that. The lead that leads to the settlement of Ar that lie along the borders of Moab. So there is no book of the wars of the Lord that were canonized, right? How many of y'all are just now hearing about that for the first time? That there is a book of the wars of the Lord. This is not canon. That's not canon. But I got a question though. if the books that are canon quotes from a book that's not canon, should that not then make the non-canonical canon? You heard of that book, Debbie? Book of the Wars of the Lord. So it is likely a collection of victory songs written about Israel's military quest of Canaan. You would think that this would be canon, though, right? Since it's one being quoted, should that not? So Debbie says no, it shouldn't be canon. Or are you saying no? Wait a minute, what are you saying, Debbie? So Terry, you've heard of this book of the Book of the Wars of the Lord. I'm not gonna lie to you, I never heard of it until last week when I was going over this one, and I was like, oh, let me go and find some information on that one. And it's not a whole bunch of information that you can find about it, other than it being referenced here. Some people think it might be the book of Jasher, but there's no valid proof that it is the book of Jasher. And you know, the book of Jasher is one of those books that the Hebrew Israelites love to quote. They love to talk about the book of Jasher. It's one of their favorites from one of the ones I've listened to, I've seen. Trying to find the page that I was looking up when I was researching it, when I was reading about it. But it made me think about how the book of Enoch, right? The book of Enoch is quoted in the Bible multiple times. If you're talking about a war in heaven, that comes out of the book of Enoch. If you're talking about, you know, more information about the Nephilim, you're talking coming from the book of Enoch. You know, so it's interesting when you talk about like how many people went up to heaven. They talk about Enoch, but then Enoch is not canon, but yet it's quoted. Oh, you haven't heard it? I don't think you can't read it because nobody has it. That's why some people think the book of Jasher might be it. And because this one has a little song from a victory, they think that's what the book might have been. I'm just saying, if it was so important, why is not canon? Like if I was trying to write a history and I was trying a Bible book, I'm not going to mention any outside information that's not canonized in my book. That leaves room for people to debate. But it is what it is. So let's continue. From there, they continue to Beer. Continue to be on to Beer. The well where the Lord said to Moses, gather the people together and I will give them water. Right? Like he couldn't give them water before, he had to strike a rock, and now Moses can't go into the promised land. Then Israel sang this song, spring up, oh well, sing about it, about the well that was the prince's dug, that the nobles of the people sang, and the nobles with scepters and staffs. Whoever wrote these lyrics needs some more work. No, Ashley, you don't want me singing. I don't know what tune or what the rhythm was for these songs, but they need some help. So anyway, they went from the wilderness of Mattathan, from Mattanah to Nathaniel, from Nathaniel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley in Moab, where the top of Pisgah overlooks the water the wasteland. Y'all don't ever want to hear me sing. I'm telling y'all right now. Don't ever want to hear that. So they are on top of top of Pisgah, overlooking the wasteland. And you know, it just reminds me there's a well-to-do school here, a private school called Mount Pisgah. Just reminded me of that. Anyway, so they sang this song. They're over there wasteland. Israel sent messengers to say to Sihon, king of the Amorites, let us pass through. Same bullshit before. Let us pass through your country. We will not turn aside to any field or vineyard, or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway until we have passed through your territory. But Sihon would not let Israel pass through his territory. He mustered his entire army and marched out into the wilderness against Israel. He didn't even send them a note, bro. Like, we finna go kick their butt. When he reached Jahaz, he fought with Israel. Israel, however, put him to the sword and took over his land from Arnon to Jabbok, but only as far as the Amorites, because their borders was fortified. Israel captured all the cities of the Amorites and occupied them, including Heshbon and all its surrounding settlements. Heshbon was a city of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and had taken from him all his land as far as Arnon. So this king felt like I'm gonna whoop their ass and got his ass whooped. But there is absolutely zero archaeological evidence of Israelites occupying any land in the Sinai Peninsula. At no time frame is there any evidence. And that area is perfect for preservation. But we have nothing other than this book that says that ever happened. All right. And so this is why the poets say, come to Heshbon and let it be rebuilt. Let Heshbon's city be restored. Fire went out from Heshbon, a city blazed from the fire of Sihon. It consumed Ar and Moab and the citizens of Arnon's height. Woe to you, Moab! You are destroyed, people of Shamash. He has given up his sons as fugitives and his daughters as captives to Sihon, king of Amorites. But we have overthrown them. Heshbon's dominion has been destroyed all the way to Dibon. All the way to the Dibon. It is Dibon. He has demolished them as far as Nopha, which extends to Makkedah. Makkedah. So the Israelites settled in the land of the Amorites. Hold on for a second. You are destroyed the people of Chemosh. He has given up his sons as fugitives and his daughters as captives. Ooh. Oh, to the king of the Amorites. So they came in and killed these people. Took all their land, took all their stuff. Actually said dick grabbing. They're already ready to fight even now if they can't see the magic behind the book. True that. They are always ready to fight. True that. But see, they didn't want to fight them Edomites, though. They didn't want to fight the Edomites. The Edomites said, hell no, you can't go. And they went around. Oh, but they're going to roll up on the Amorites and going to fight them. But in respect, the Amorites came out and just attacked them. So they defended themselves, but then they went on and killed everybody else. They could have just defended themselves and kept it going. But no, we got to kill everybody. But let's go ahead and finish this chapter. We only got a couple of verses left. After Moses had sent spies to Jazer, the Israelites captured its surrounding settlements and drove out the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went along the road towards Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, and his whole army marched out to meet them in the battle of Edrei. Now Og is later mentioned to be a giant, you would, first of all, after the flood, it wasn't supposed to be no giants. Here's another one of them examples. This book can't be consistent. And when the story needs it, they got giants. Now, if Og later on is going to be a giant, you would think that would be mentioned right here, that Og is a giant. But they ain't mentioning it right here. Got some important information. Or maybe it's, ooh, I'm writing 100, 200, 300 years later. I'm going to make my story better. I'm going to say Og was a giant. So they add to the story. Yeah, they were supposedly washed away. So the Lord said to Moses, do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands along with his whole army and his lands. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. So they struck him down together with his sons and his whole army, leaving them no survivors, and they took possession of the land. Where is most real? Where most real at? Even maybe because I did a video giving some demonstrations how this guy endorsed his murder, killing people. He didn't want to come today because he again, the guy said, don't worry about it, man. Just like I gave, don't worry about it. I'm going to give him and his sons over to your hand. And they left them no survivors, straight up genocide, just like they did the rest of the Amorites, according to this story. I'm just saying. Now, if he did this, why couldn't he do that to the Edomites? According to the Hebrew Israelites, the Edomites supposed to be so evil. Why didn't he do this to the Edomites? Why he could have had them take the Edomite land, but instead he took their land. Could have took their land, but no, he didn't. They hearing their own voices in their own head. That's who voices they're hearing. Just like when most of these Christians say that God told me, or like this video I'm gonna do later on the day with this girl telling me, I know Jesus personally. You know, you hear, you listen to yourself. What he look like? What he dressed like? What he like to watch on TV? What's his favorite food? I mean, because if I know somebody personally, then I know personal things about them, right? You know. So, but that's a whole nother story. That's later on. That's later on. That's later on. But they just hearing themselves. The whole just a copy of the page ran from the story of Gilgamesh. Exactly. Gilgamesh going around defeating people, killing folks. Same way, same story. And see, every time they add, and it's like a game of how you treat somebody who is your prisoner, and you get that, what is it called? Stockholm syndrome. I'm gonna give you just enough for you to survive. Then I want you to complain. Sometimes I'm gonna give you a little something. Other times I'm gonna punish the shit out of you for asking for survival, things you need to survive. That way I keep you off balance and keep you enslaved to me. That's how this deity treated this whole thing for 40 years. What's interesting about this comment, said, why did they have to pass through this particular land? Anyway, I'm pretty sure they had any number of directions that they could have went. If you look at a map, they supposedly went straight initially to Israel. But then they got there and they saw the Jericho people, and people got all scary and all this kind of bullshit, and false information was given. And then they had to turn around and go back into the Sinai Peninsula. But why go into the Sinai Peninsula when they could have went into where modern day Kuwait, they could have went up in, which would have kept them near like the river, the Euphrates and the Tigris. They could have been in a much nicer place, but decided to go back into the worst place. But all in all, at the end of the day, all of that land was controlled by Egypt. So they left Egypt to go into more Egypt, because these were vassal. If there was a state inside that land, it was controlled by Egypt. They were still vassal states of Egypt. Mm-hmm. keep each other with some false hopes and emotions. Very abusive behavior. Just like Ashley also says, abusive behavior. And you know, one of the songs I used to hate that they used to sing in church is one of those songs, and I don't know how I remember how it goes, but it used to say, "And I won't complain, and I won't complain." It's like you give me this, give me that, don't give it to me, whatever it is, and I won't complain. Bullshit. I would. I'm complaining all day. When I was in the Marine Corps, if they sent us into a messed up situation, you best believe I can. Hey man, this jacked up. Matter of fact, I was just talking to my cousin about the fact that um, had one situation where they was gonna try to send us into, and they was like, "You can't take no weapons with y'all." Like bullshit. String me up on the charges because I ain't going. I'll be damned. I ain't going. You can put me on charges, but I'll be damned if I'm there with no weapon. Yes, is that? I think that is the song. I'd rather have silver than Jesus and silver and gold. Yeah, I think that's a song that says some bullshit about I won't complain. Let's see. Offer me silver or gold or Jesus. I'll take all of the silver and gold. All that. Give me all that. All that. Because I see a whole bunch of suffering people with Jesus. There's that Color Purple line. This life here only temporary. Heaven lasts forever. Mm-hmm. That's that bullshit that they say. Yet he'd rather have silver and gold besides them. And if you think about it, actually, it's so right. When you look at these stories, since Jesus and this God are supposed to be the same being, this God makes them give him silver and gold all the time. He always wants silver and gold. When they go and conquer Jericho, he tells them all the silver and gold is for him. What does a God, a sky daddy, need silver and gold for? Sounds more like the Anunnaki story of them needing silver and gold, especially gold, in order to extend their life and to fix the ozone layer. So, like somebody said earlier about the Gilgamesh story, is similar, similar. But I take all your money. Matter of fact, every Christian who don't want their money, you feel like having your own personal possessions and money is a problem, get me. But if you think about it, you go to a lot of those Catholic churches, especially you go to them Catholic churches in Europe, them things are adorned with enough silver and gold that they could end world hunger. If you just took all the jewels and gold that they got. But Quinn said, right, the confusion and conundrums, child. And yet, this guy is in need of anything. Yeah, it shouldn't need anything. I couldn't deal with a God that requires anything. Master said you're gonna go to heaven and live a life of ease. They ain't never say you're gonna be free in heaven. That is what the slave master used to tell the slave, that when you get to heaven, you're gonna live a life of ease. They still have the mentality that you was gonna be serving them in heaven, just like the Mormons weren't the only ones saying that. I'm just saying, Brandon, what does a sky daddy need worship for? Shouldn't need any worship. Shouldn't need anything. Who was that? I saw that before. They got a leader called Sweet Daddy getting money thrown at him in the South. There is one. There's some church leader and they call him Sweet Daddy. Ain't no way in hell. Ain't no way in hell. What am I gonna say? That's what you was raised Catholic, I'm assuming, from the Catholic statement, and your aunt was their money person, and that was what it was all about. Yeah, it's all about that money. Okay, I knew it was somebody named Sweet Daddy. Nikki said he ran a cult. It was in Georgia and Harlem. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? And you're right about this one. Everybody's been asked to give up their money, but the church ain't asked to give up a goddamn thing. What was that? As much sense as that makes, it still isn't common sense for them. And they crazy. My wife, one, I love her though. Yeah, I keep loving her, man. As long as y'all can, if y'all can keep respectful. If she can respect you, and you can respect her. Just keep it going. Religion shouldn't have nothing to do with your relationship, technically, to me. Um, Terry said, my brother, didn't the Roman Catholic Church write the Bible saying the Panera Indians killed Jesus? I don't know about Panera Indians killing Jesus, but the Bible in its totality is written by multiple groups of people. You start out with the Israelite people in Hezekiah's time frame down to Ezra, but then the Greeks got involved with it. Then the Romans got involved with it, as well as the Hellenistic Jews. There's a few Hellenistic Jews who was involved with it. And then it came under the control of the Romans in 381 when it became full control under the Romans. And then, of course, you got different variations and branches who've written their own stuff. I'm gonna have to look up this guy, Sweet Daddy. He's accused of beating on and trafficking women, being a pimp, making women sell their bodies on the street as a front for him being a pastor. Wow. But yeah, I know somebody said that we would never, that you can never measure, we would never measure up. I think Nikki said something about that. Um, why is that we actually feel that we would never measure up to his standard? Because that's what they tell you over and over again, that you'll fall short of the glory, that you got to have this outside thing. If you look at this guy's standard, you actually, your morality today is higher moral. You have a higher moral compass than that dude. So you're better than that, than this book, this God of the Bible. The Romans took 12 months and a heap of scrolls and got the monks to put the Bible together. Well, really, what you have as far as canonizing the Bible, it was really pushed by Athanasius. You have multiple people saying these should be the books that are canonized. These are the ones that Christians should read. This is after the Council of Nicaea in 325. For the next 25 plus years, Athanasius kept listing the books that you have today. And eventually those books were the ones that were adopted. So really it's Athanasius' push for those books that created the canonized version of the Bible. Now, those who wrote it, that's different. That's a bunch of different people over centuries of time. Look up Jasmine Nora. She keeps her foot on their necks, and Ashley says so on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, he got some low ass standards to be real. Now he got some disgusting standards, like all this animal slaughtering and blood and all that kind of stuff. But we wouldn't do that today. But making you feel less than you what you really are keeps you under a spell, keeps you under their control. As long as they can make you feel inadequate, then they are winning. Just like uh, overly dominating spouse or controlling spouse. Mm, 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 mm. Best comment of the day. Best comment of today. Because I will take a cigar over Jesus. If I'm walking down the street with Jesus or this cigar, I'll take the cigar over Jesus any day of the week. Let's see. I would love to hear your take on the fifth dimension. I know you have talked about some, uh, the inter you one's personal spirit. I have been watching some videos on the subject and I find it fascinating. So for me, what we would call a fifth dimensional plane is merely bridging the gap from our this gross matter plane to a higher spiritual plane where matter is less. Like there is no plane where matter doesn't exist, but the dependence upon the physical begins to decrease as you go to spiritual plane C, B, A, and then whatever planes there are above that. So a fifth dimensional plane would be a like spiritual plane B in my thought process, where I am well beyond the aspects of anything that holds me back that are on the matter plane, where I am more pure mental energy than I am physical energy trapped, than I am mental energy trapped into a physical body. But it's just another state of existence beyond this one. Can we touch it mentally and emotionally? If they're working well with, if they're working with each other, your mental, your emotional, your instinctive, and your sexual energies working together in that mental state, you can touch it, fully realize it, not until you leave this body. But it's the preparation of your thoughts, your mind, your emotions, and all those that allows you to be able to ascend to a higher plane. Yeah, the Catholics do have the Apocrypha in their books. The King James version used to until like 1800s or early 1900s when the King James took it out. And I like this. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. You ever realize that how difficult it is to have the fullness of something in your mind? Like that's the big struggle. Uh, it's not a struggle. A struggle is the wrong word. It's the right word, but the wrong word. It's not the one I wanted to use. To be fully, you know, like when you're dreaming, you're fully in the dream, like that completely, that world completely exists. But to do that outside of a dream state, that's where most people struggle to get fully engrossed in it, into the mental, with your conscious mind. That's like a thing that you should work on to strengthen your mind. Yeah. It would be like multiple levels of heaven. You know how they talk about Jacob's ladder and there were rungs and angels were ascending and descending? That's a good imagery, in my opinion, of like the different dimensional planes. And it's just understanding the mental work and energies, the thought processes to get there. But yeah, I program my mind oftentimes before I go to sleep for it to manifest what I desire in this physical world. But I also program it for where I want to ascend to because I'm not trying to come back here. For me, reincarnation is the reality of things. I ain't trying to come back to this place. I'll let y'all have it. I'm good. Yeah, if you've seen some of the videos, I do like this young lady, the Devil's Daughter 162. I like her videos. She gives it's a lot of hope for the next this younger generation, which the younger generation is leaving is not part of the church. They are leaving this church in droves. The church is falling apart. I would not be able to sleep to that. That would be too much. Um, Me and my Safajos and binaural beats, which I haven't slept in a couple of days. Might be when I'm back here. But yeah, the younger generation they're not giving in to because the pastor said so, because my mama said so, because grandmama said so, but they're actually reading this book and studying this book and they're walking away from this book, which I love it. I love it. I'm glad that they are. And then so many people that are my age are starting to read this book. The worst thing that could have happened to religion was the invention of the internet. The internet is killing religion. You know, the best way I can say how to make sure that you don't come back here is to raise your consciousness and live out that consciousness. Like, recognize that this is just a poverty suit, a meat suit. So I don't give in to race. I don't give in to gender. I don't give in to nationalisms, none of those things. I know that I got to deal with it while I'm here, but dealing with it and accepting it as reality are two different things, right? It is only a reality in this gross matter plane. And I'll deal with it when I have to. So if I'm getting pulled over by the police, I know how to deal with it. But when I'm dealing with people, when I'm talking to people, when I conceptualize my morality towards people, those things have no play in it. They play no part. They play no part at all. You know, I'm going to be as respectful to any and everybody. Things are just what they are, and that's all it is. And I live that. And since I live it, then that's what my mind perceives reality to be, is beyond this meat suit. So when I'm done, I ain't coming back to this meat suit because I recognize that there are higher vibrations of existence and I will go there. Now, I do use systems that we have that makes it easier to understand. This is why I like the chakra system, because the chakras make it easier to understand. But to truly work that chakra system, I want you to think about it. You have to be able to live a life with no fear whatsoever, live a life with no guilt, no shame, open to love, and know that you're worthy of it. You cannot lie to yourself about who you are. You have to develop and see how all things are truly connected and their true connection points, not the bullshit that people try to make, but real connections. And then you have to be able to release any attachments to earth, to this. If you can't release the attachments that you have to this plane, then you can't leave because you'll always be tethered to it. So if you can't release the attachment and you hit you with a couple of hard ones, can you release your attachment to family love? Can you release your attachment to blood relations? Can you release your attachment to spousal love? Can you release your attachment to your own body? Can you release your attachment to air and food and water and all those things that you enjoy? You have to be able to, if you have it, fine. If you don't have it, that's fine too. But let go. Be able to let go of it. Knowing that it's everything and everything is connected, it'll come back. It'll come around. It might look different, shape different, sound different, taste different, but it all comes back. And when it does, it's like a thought. It comes in, you enjoy it for the moment that you have it, and then you let it go. Sad things happen. Do you get engrossed in the misery of the sadness? So like this morning, I found out one of my cousins that I do know very well, we used to go on trips together. She passed away on Sunday. I feel for the family, for all my family. I know it's going to hit my sisters harder because she's their age, but it's like I don't have this thing where death is not real. Death is just a transmutation to another. Like she knows what's next, or she bring her ass back. More than likely, she coming back, but she's coming back. I found out 2 days. What was that? Saturday. I found out that I can't call her a friend, but I knew her well enough to say that I know her personally. Knew her personally. And the last time we did talk was in 2017. But Keisha Nash Whitaker passed away. We graduated high school together. She went to the prom with one of my good friends, and she was my brother's first wife. They were best friends. Another girl that I graduated with, who I've kept in contact with, they were best friends. And in 2017, me and her talked, and I supplied her popcorn for her one of her daughter's parties. So I knew her well enough for that. So it kind of like, damn, somebody my age died. But some people get sunk. They go into a sunken place when a person passes away. And that's an attachment to this. When you are still in misery, like I have a friend, she's still in misery about her mother who passed 20 years ago. Every year in March, she goes into depression. She still has an earthly attachment. She's still holding on. Right? So you have to so letting go of earthly attachment, that's a hard one for most people. But when you can let go of all those things, and you can't just say it, you have to live it. You have to live it. This is why, shameless plug, this is why I do. It's one of the programs that I have on CoachRenz.com. And it takes time and it takes development, and you have to be incredibly personable and honest about yourself and what's going on in your life and who you are. If anybody on here, I ain't gonna name any names, I don't tell people business. But there's some people who come on here, they've been through some of my coaching programs. They know, they can tell you just the onboarding information that you have to provide me. You got to do some damn serious digging into yourself and bring out who you really are, because that's the only way it works. When I'm working with people, coaching them, I help you. If I don't know the truth about you, and you have to be able to know the truth about yourself in order to ascend. Just the way it works. Separating yourself, I'm not saying you forget about her, but if it still causes you to, if it causes you to regress in your life and your being, where you cannot function, there is a grieving time. I don't expect people to not grieve at all, but when you stay stuck in grief, that's when you maintain that attachment to earth. And it's more like what Nikki is saying. You learn how to work with her energy. You know, like when I need to be an asshole, Eddie J. Ross comes out very well. The Eddie J. Ross comes out very well. When I just need to be a stern asshole and not give a shit about what anybody else is thinking or saying and get shit done, the Eddie J. Ross comes out very well. Because I tell y'all, let's see, I am actually, I think I told y'all this before, so it's not secret. I am actually a very sympathetic, well, no, hell no, I'm not sympathetic. I am actually a very emotional person. I can empathize on some things, but I have such a high level of consideration for other people that sometimes it's hard for me to just be that asshole and just say, okay, I can't worry about them. I got to do what I need to do. Because I'll be more concerned about y'all than I am about myself, as long as it doesn't hurt myself too much. Used to, I would allow that consideration to hurt myself, but I had to learn how to not do that and be like, well, sorry, y'all be all right. It's just like switching these days and just doing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and doing it at 1 o'clock. It's more about me because I'm not getting this book done, and there are other programs that I want to get done, you know, training programs I want to get done. I'm not getting them done. I got other pages that I now got to build. Wasn't getting it done. So I had to cut this time down. And then I don't like getting up early in the morning. So 1 o'clock. That 10 o'clock stuff was, I was always late because I don't like getting up early. Yep. I said something similar to my kid. I gave him about 2 weeks and then get on with your life. Don't be sitting around here all that whining and shit. Get on with your life. All your grief ain't gonna do nothing. Trauma says she. Yeah, I used to be that way, man. Trust me. I made some decisions in consideration of other people to the point where I took some financial hits that whooped my ass. Now, I used to have a ancestor altar in my house, but that is something that a person can do. Just don't become too attached to anything. Oh my gosh. No, you didn't say that, okay, Dad. I like sleeping as long as my 3-year-old would let me. Oh, 3-year-old. Oh, not really gonna have those. Well, I mean, if you create an ancestor altar, you put a picture of her up. You will put up like some of her favorite things. Like I had for my grandfather, I had a pack of cools, cool menthol or mentholated, whatever them cools. Had a pack of cools for him. Had a bill, split malt liquor bill. But yeah, just try it. And see, Debbie's her sister lives a life in grief. If you live your life in grief, you come back to earth. You come back to earth. If you live your life in grief, if you live your life in shame, if you live it in any of those aspects, those low vibrational things, you come back. You come back to earth. And you're gonna do it again. And here's the thing about it. Let's say you come back to earth because you were still attached to your mother, husband, wife, children, whomever had passed away, you're still attached to them. Even if you leave before them and you're still attached to them, you come back. 99% of the time, you ain't gonna remember none of them when you come back. You're gonna get a whole nother shot to love and lose a whole bunch of other people. And unless you raise that vibration of thought, you're gonna repeat the same thing because you're gonna do the same thing with those people. So logically, you shouldn't have an attachment to anybody to the degree where it causes you to come back, because you're just gonna get a whole new setup when you come back. Doesn't mean you don't love. Of course you love. That's that heart chakra. Of course you're gonna love. But you have to love, like, remember the old saying, love someone enough that you can let them go? We usually talk about that when we talk about relationships with somebody here. But raise that to a conscious level. Love them enough that I can let them go when I pass on or they pass on. So if they ascended, I can ascend. And if I ascend, then they can ascend who comes behind me. Let's see. The Queen wrote a storybook. You mentioned earlier about when you get involved with helping people along their journey, about them doing the work. You were talking about shadow work. A lot of people don't like to do shadow work. You learn to learn themselves. That's a hard pill to swallow for some. But if you don't do any shadow work, how can you really say you know yourself? You're absolutely right. And I tell you, everybody got shadows. Everybody got some shadows. And that shadow work is hard because you gotta accept a lot of stuff about yourself that you may not like. You ain't gonna like it, but it's real. It's some real work. Now, a lot of people are out there talking about, the shadow note journal, the shadow book, this shadow, that shadow. It's like everything. Something comes out, becomes popular, and a whole bunch of people don't know what the hell they're talking about, jump on it. Talking, yes, I know it. Be mindful. Research the person that whose book you're gonna read, or if you're gonna work with somebody, research that person. Make sure they know what the hell they're talking about. Make sure they can actually help you. Because as much as I can sit here and say that I'm just the foremost expert on working with people through their shadow work and opening up their chakras, but shadow work is just a part of it. And check me out first. Go through a bunch of my videos, see what I talk about, see where my mind is at. How am I living my life in regards to that? Know about the person before you accept from that person. This is why I tell y'all research everything that I say and learn as much about me as you possibly can so that you can then qualify the information. And like I said, one thing that is rich, if you were able to talk to anybody who's ever worked with me, that onboarding paperwork, your ass gonna have to do some digging in yourself in order to fill that paperwork out. And if you don't fill it out, we ain't gonna get started. It's as simple as that with me. If you can't do, my aunts used to pick on me because when I was a personal trainer, I used to fire clients, and they used to be like, "How can you fire clients?" I said, "Because I have a set program to help dig into their mindset to figure out what is mentally causing them to maintain an unhealthy life. If they're not willing to do that work, so I can find those breaking points, those pain points rather, if I can't find those pain points and then know how to work through their pain points, then we cannot be successful in what we're doing." And I'm not wasting my time on people who don't want to do the work, who give me a bunch of bullshit, because they're going to fail. And if they fail, then my record looks bad. Hell no. And then you're taking up somebody else's space. So research the person too. And see, once you get to a state, there's very little, if any, shadow work to do, because you are very knowledgeable about yourself and you are accepting of who you are. And then you work on the things that you can work on. And Yoshi, it took me 20 years to fight the darkest part of myself. If you're looking for fast and quick, then nah. Like, those are two words. That's a word that somebody used with me. No matter what we're talking about, we can talk about relationship. We can be dealing with money. We can be dealing with their health. We can deal with, opening the chakras. Whatever. If they say, I want a quick way, a fast way, I'm not working with you. I'm not working with you at all. That's not what I meant to hit. I got a bad feeling I'm coming back and I have to let a lot of my shit go, but I still have some that I can't let go. You can let it go. It just takes you more work. The things that you say that you can't let go are literally things that it will take you more energy to let them go. Especially if you've had 20 years to develop this hypnotic rhythm of doing or being a certain way. You ain't gonna get rid of it in a day, 2 days, a week, 3 weeks. It may take you a year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years to get past it. Even when it sometimes sneak back up on you, you gotta have the techniques to be able to, move it along and get it out your way. It's kind of like when we was talking about sometimes, you walked away from Christianity, but every now and then you have that little, you gotta be able to get rid of it. Like if we was, maybe when we do this retreat, I might do something. Have everybody bring a Bible and then burn it. Yeah. Have everybody bring a Bible and then burn it. To see whether or not you can burn it. But even more so, while they're burning, to meditate on the emotional state that you're in while it's burning. How do you feel about it burning? Like, how do you feel about what you just did? Do you have any negative feelings? Do you have any sad feelings? Because if you still have any negative or sad feelings about burning a Bible, or that you got a little knot right here or a little knot in your gut about burning a Bible, you still got some work to do. As far as walking away from this religion, there's still work. Yep, that's going to be part of the retreat. Having trouble letting go some of the gospel music. I love the artistry, in my opinion. To me, it signifies something that Black people came up with through the struggle. To me, it signifies something that we invented. I understand, but think about the vibrational frequencies of the words in the gospel song. Like if you were singing one of them old songs, Jesus is mine, Jesus is mine, or the victory is mine, but then they be ad-libbing, and then they be like, Jesus is mine, peace is mine, happiness is mine. But if you're singing the part Jesus is mine, what vibrational pattern are you sending inside yourself when you're saying that? So yeah, there are some gospel songs, they was on point. There's some that reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother's favorite gospel song was Sign Me Up. At least that's what I think the title of it is called. Sign me up for the Christian Jubilee. Come ride my name on the road. That was her favorite song, so it stayed with me for a long time. But then I had to think about, as much as I thought about that song or would even sing that song after I walked away, I'm putting those vibrational words back into my system, which was making it difficult for me to let go of every aspect of this religion. So I had to get rid of that too. And then I logically put that with the fact I wouldn't let my children listen to NWA growing up. I wouldn't let them listen to Silk. They're not listening. My daughters ain't listening to Free Me Baby. Oh yeah, Free Me Baby. No, my daughters they ain't listening to that. Why would I not let them listen to that? Because of what those words, the vibration of those words, what they do. what they do to the psyche. So it's the same thing when you're dealing with them songs. You gotta let it go, man. Sorry. Gotta let it go, let it go, let it go. Now, you say you'll be happy doing it. Let's see. It's one thing to say how you're going to feel about something. It's a whole other thing when you do it. Because trust me, the first time I burned the Bible, I felt some kind of way. I did. There's a part of me that wanted to put it out. And so, it took a couple of times, really. It took a minute for me to get where there was no emotional connection to it at all. Like none. Like no guilt, no shame. And wherever you're feeling the knot is telling you where. It tells me where you're having your issue. Now, hold on. Let me not give y'all all the information on that because shit, you have to come to the retreat. I got to say something for y'all to look forward to. Yoshi, I have a lot of anger at religion at one point. Now I understand some people need that for their kind of control in their lives. For some people, the only thing that keeps them from doing terrible shit is by forcing themselves to believe in these lies. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I used to feel like everybody needs to leave, but I recognize some people they're not ready. And if they leave it, they're going to do some terrible things in society. Now, those people, I just recognize they got to come back. And some people just not ready to leave because it's all they grew up with, it's all they know, and they just got to have it. They're members of my family. They gonna have to come back. There's a whole bunch of members of my family gonna have to come back because they just not ready. Yeah, I'm with you. That and even praying, I'm at a state where even praying kind of like my family. We had our annual holiday party. And, when they wanted to pray over the food, respectfully, I just stood there. And me and my daughters and a couple of my cousins who I know, we just looking at each other, making faces. Just making faces at each other. You say you just don't believe in burning books? Okay. Is that because of what they've taught about the Nazis and the USSR, about how they burned books, or the Library of Alexandria? If I burn a Bible, what damage does that cause to society on a whole? Hell, some books need to be burned. Sorry. Every Bible should be burned. I think the Bible, Quran, Torah, burn all them books. Because them books have done more damage in the world than they've done good. They've done way more damage in the world. When you look at the accumulated history of those books, they've done more damage. Stay home and light a candle for your ancestors. And even with ancestry, I only use ancestors for the energy that they have. Like when I need to accomplish something or be something or think a certain way, I use the ancestral energy of that person to get into that mindset for myself, get that energy going for myself. I use more than just family ancestors. I use any ancestor. If I'm trying to do something business, hell, it could be anybody. Anybody I've studied in business, I don't give a shit. Black, white, Asian, I care less. If I know enough about them and their energy in that realm, I'm going to use that energy. Shit, you know, the energy of Andrew Carnegie. Come on. It's going to dominate a whole industry. I would have no problems with anybody using that energy. To me, every person who's ever lived is my ancestor. And I will use all their energies. Dwayne said you got to bring a Bible and a Quran. Bring the Bible and the Quran. And you ain't got no excuse for not coming to the retreat, Dwayne, because it's going to be in the South. And since you live in the South. Oh, Dwayne, just for. Now, this don't mean I want to see your ass every weekend. So let me make sure that I'm very clear, Dwayne. But at the end of January, I'm moving to Wilmington for at least a year. We're trying to come down to Wilmington every weekend. But one, we ain't gonna be there every weekend because we got to do the travel channel. So we're gonna be moving around a lot anyway. You know, a lot of I've had some black people get mad at me when I tell them that everybody's my ancestors. I don't care. Ah, yeah, African, black. See, you stuck on race. When I'm dealing with that level of consciousness, there is no such thing as race. Everybody got melanin, unless you're albino. So there's a part of me that feels like religion as a whole should not be allowed into any politics or school. And it shouldn't. It should not. And did we talk? I didn't know I forgot if we talked about that one last time I was in Wilmington. Oh yeah, we're gonna be getting around. Actually, we're gonna be in Wilmington over this Xmas holiday during the winter solstice. During the winter solstice. And this is my comment. That's not the deal, but if black people started civilization, then you damn everybody's your ancestor. And if you're white and black people started civilization, then all the black people are your ancestor. If you're Asian, then everybody's your ancestor. Everybody's your ancestor, period. Everybody's ancestor. Point blank, period. Even if you're a Christian, and I even hear Christians talking about their ancestors now. Like, how are you Christian and you doing ancestry worship? Because the Israelites did ancestry worship. They hearkened to their ancestors. The Hebrews and the Israelites did. But Christians aren't supposed to, right? But you'll see them talking about that now because dealing with your ancestors is a popular thing. It's becoming more and more popularized, so there are more and more of them are doing it. And I find that very interesting that they're falling into that because it just consistently demonstrates how culture, how religion is based on culture more so than anything else. And I'm sure they'll figure out some biblical way of justifying it. I'm sure that they will. Yeah, and throwing religion into politics is one of the worst things that they can do because that's what created a lot of the hell on earth is all the politics, is religion being a part of the political thought process. Absolutely nothing. Say it again. When you're talking about the energy of your ancestors, what does flesh really have to do with it? Absolutely nothing. Ain't got nothing to do with it. That's the whole point. Is that when you are working on a higher conscious level, even while you're still here in this gross matter state, your physicalness, your physical body, all this shit ain't got nothing to do with it. Doesn't play a part at all. Y'all like my Anubis? Cigar pen. I got another one. I haven't used it yet. It's another cigar pen that was gifted to me. The tip came off. Yeah, it has nothing to do with it. Have you seen the new movie on Netflix, Leave the World Behind? I haven't seen that one. What that there about? You know what I want to see, but I don't want to pay for it because I don't want to give money towards it because I don't want them to think that it's a success. And that's the Book of Clarence. Leave the World Behind, Netflix. I found my tablet. Well, Angelina found my tablet. So it's a thriller and a drama. A family vacation on Long Island is interrupted by two strangers bearing news of a blackout as the family surprises, all while grappling with their own place in a collapsing world. All right. I'm gonna have to watch this one. You got some end of the world stuff. Oh, I think I just saw the trailer of this yesterday with Marshall Ali, because I saw Marshall Ali and I was like, Julia Roberts, she ain't did nothing in forever. And it had Kevin Bacon. 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Okay. I put that on the list. So you just didn't like the ending? Well, don't tell me the ending now. I would say you need a religion to have faith in God. You know how that is such a true statement that they will try to avoid and say that there is no religion. Like I don't know what video it is, but on some video I did where a whole bunch of people are commenting, talking about leave the word religion and the church out of it because you got to have a relationship. Without the religion, you ain't got a relationship. You got to have a religion in order to have your faith in this deity. Right? Oh, you're changing it. You meant have no religion. To have faith in God, you got to have no religion to have faith in God. That don't make sense to me. How can you have no religion to have faith in a God that is based on a religion? Right? Without the religion, there would be no God. And Sherelle, because is it pronounced Ahava? I don't know if this is your first time here, but I don't like pronouncing people's names wrong. So is it Ahava? But the thing now, so religion started getting a bad name about 10, 15 years ago. So people start going heavy into, I don't have a religion, I have a relationship. I don't have a religion, I have a relationship. But you have to have your religion in order to have your relationship, because you have to have your religion in order to have faith in this particular deity. Well, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you for the first time. We have a first timer. God dang it. We have a first timer in here. We got a first timer. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, there is no religion without, there is no faith without religion. Because what is religion? I understand regale, relegare means to bind, but to have a, how we would define a religion today, like if you was doing a 501c3 and it was religious based, then, and you check that box religion, uh, it doesn't say spiritual. This is religion. You have to have a set of rituals. You have to have a belief in a deity. Rituals and a belief of a deity and how you're supposed to worship that deity or live your life based on that deity is a religion. So there's no religion without, there's no faith without religion. You know, it's funny that she said that, because this, when I woke up this morning, I was having this thought process of doing a video on that very thing, because I was just thinking about the fact that I had this vision of being in a church and someone from the IRS was there, and the pastor said, "This is not a religion, this is a relationship." And the person from the IRS stood up and said, "Can I take you on the record as saying that this is not a religion, this is a relationship?" And the pastor said, "Yes." And then they came a week later and they said, "Well, we're going to cancel your 501c3 because since you're not a religion, then you don't get the benefits of religion, of freedom of religion." Well, no, they were just saying you don't get the tax benefit of religion. And then when they took them to court and they tried to cite the First Amendment of freedom of religion, the judge was like, "But you're claiming that this is not a religion, so you don't have the freedoms of that, of religion. So how can you have faith without religion?" Right? Because religion and Christianity has that saying that you can't have faith without works is dead, right? Your works are your rituals and your lifestyle based on this religion. So therefore, you have to have a religion. It's just a saying. The last third of this cigar is freaking amazing, but only if you can retrohale. It's freaking amazing. That right there, that hit right there. Oh, Coach, did you see the post I sent you saying Jesus H. Christ means hell Zeus? I didn't see that, but no, Jesus H. Christ does not mean hell Zeus. Jesus H. Christ comes from the late 1800s and early 1900s. Of priests used to wear, so the first three letters that they would use for the Isus was iota sigma eta, which comes to the JHC. So there is not Jesus H. Christ. It was just those initials, and then people from those initials, the JHC, turned that into Jesus H. Christ. Uh, but it's from the Greek iota sigma eta, is where that comes from. It has nothing to do with Zeus at all. Actually, I did a video where the dude said that about Jesus H. Christ. Some dude, he was smoking a cigar, which I did appreciate that part. But he said that, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna correct that part, because that's not where that comes from. Ahava. Why did that pop up? Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. Not your works, but the works of God through you. This is kind of like what we discussed earlier when people always got to give credit for everything that's done to this deity, but you actually did it. You have to make a decision to do anything. No deity is making that decision for you. And that's for still religion. That is religion. This is where your book says no works, no works you can do can get you into heaven. I understand that popular saying, but faith alone doesn't get you into your heaven. Just based on your book, faith alone can't get you into heaven. It has to be a combination of faith and works in order to get you into this heaven. The works are part of your religion, your rituals, your lifestyle, according to this book. If Yoshi, if you're referring to her saying that, and I'm guessing that a Haven is a young lady. Uh, if I'm wrong, correct me. I've heard it as a saying, but it's not something that you'll find in the book. It's more of a doctrine thing. Oh, I'm starting to get behind. The idea that you can claim to have a faith, but your life doesn't show it, then you don't really have faith. It would be like saying I have faith in airplanes are trustworthy, but I would never get on one. Then my faith in airplanes is false because my actions don't back up my statements. Josh, that is a very good way of putting it. And it's funny, I had a similar conversation with an aunt of mine over the weekend because we have one of my nephews is getting married in Zambia, and she won't get on the airplane. She got faith in airplanes, but she won't get on the airplane. She thinks that they ain't gonna let her back in the country for some reason. I'm like, Aunt May, you are not that important that they want to keep you. Okay, so you're not a Christian because you don't believe in the Trinity. To be Christian, you don't have to believe in the Trinity. The Gnostics were Christians. They didn't believe in the Trinity. Actually, the majority of people in the first, second, and the early third century didn't. First, second, third, and early fourth century didn't believe in the Trinity. The Trinity was forced upon them by Rome. So you still Christian. In today's description of Christianity, they will probably not consider you Christian, but you're still Christian. If you believe in Jesus, you're a Christian. Oh, let me hit that again. He said, I don't actually believe in Zeus. I lost all my faith in him. He just isn't the God he used to be. And that's the thing. If you look at it, all religions rise and fall. They rise and then they fall into obscurity. 1,000 years from now, Christianity, or it'll actually be less than that, but in 100 years from now, Christianity will have dropped. That it will be a minor religion. It will not be. I don't think in 100 years, Christianity will not be a major religion in the world. So, out of curiosity, okay, so you already said you say you believe in Jesus. Okay, but do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, or just believe in Jesus as a Messiah figure, but separate, kind of like how Gnostics do? So, are you Gnostic? This is a good one. Daisies. I think I said your name right when you first signed on, but I'm messing it up now. Daisy, if that's how you say that. Is faith and hope the same thing? It's even applied during the rituals. Is it even applied during rituals and prayer? The work for what? God is the universal balance. Faith and hope are not necessarily the same thing, but they are closely related to each other. Faith is believing in something that has actually no evidence that it could be, right? Faith would be like, I have a friend, Brandon. You can say, I have faith that Brandon is going to come to Renz's defense when he's in need, right? You can have faith. You have no proof of that. You have nothing that will make you believe that. You have no evidence of it. That's faith. Hope is let's say you have a brother or sister, and they have in the past demonstrated that they will come to your defense, come to your aid. But you're not guaranteed that they're going to come every time. So you can hope that they're going to come to your defense. They have done it before, so there is some evidence, but you're unsure if they're going to do it every time. That's hope. So hope has more evidence than faith, has more experience than faith. Faith is purely speculation. So when they say the faith and things hoped for, they hoping for something. That's a misuse of the term hope. Okay, so I did say it right, Daisy. Okay, so you believe in the Bible that he is the word made flesh, therefore he is God. Now, I want you to go and research that in the Koine Greek of, what is that, John 1 John 1:1, that in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God, and the word was made flesh. The Koine Greek actually translates to, in the beginning was the word, and that in the beginning was the word, and the word was a God, and that God was towards the God. So according to the Koine Greek, Jesus, the word that became flesh in Jesus, is a God, but not the God. Because you're going to notice the article ton theos when it's talking about the God, but the article ton is not there when it talks about the word being a God, which means when the definite article ton is not there, then theos is a God. But it's interesting research. If you want to go research that. But in the Koine Greek, that's what it says. And John was written in Koine Greek. Hope, that's why I say they're cousins. Hope requires a little bit of faith, but faith alone is just without any evidence. Hope has a little bit of evidence. But there is no hope in faith. That's the thing. There is faith in hope, but no hope in faith. Faith is belief and trust in the evidence you've seen. Your description of hope is the biblical definition of faith. The biblical definition of hope is the confident expectations and the desire of something good known to happen in the future. The faith part has no evidence, though. Even the Bible says, Josh, that faith is the evidence of things unseen. Faith has no evidence. It's purely speculative. What's the verse? Let's find it. Faith is the evidence. Okay. So that's Hebrews 11, 1 through 6. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But what kind of evidence can you have of things that are not seen? I mean, I know it uses the word hope in there, but it's a misuse of that word hope. For it was by the elders obtaining a good testimony. By faith, we understand that the words were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. So by faith, Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous. God testified to his gift, and through it has been dead still speaks. By faith, Enoch was taken away so that he did not see death. He was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony that he pleased God. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder for those who diligently seek him. So this is written in Hebrews, and you don't have to agree, but basically you have to have faith in a God that you've not seen, that you have no evidence of, but you're hoping based on your hope is based on the testimony of other people that you've never met. The hope of there's no evidence in this use of hope. There is no evidence. The writers of Hebrew, the only evidence was the writings of the Old Testament, to which are not verifiable through any type of evidence whatsoever. There's no evidence of Cain and Abel ever existing. There's no evidence of Enoch ever existing. The fact that Enoch walked with the Lord and was seen no more, that little blonde girl who was in, was that Bermuda or somewhere like some island, and she disappeared and ain't nobody ever seen her. Could you claim you can claim that she not God took her? She's walking with God. Nobody's seen her. Or did somebody kidnap her? Did Enoch walk away somewhere and he died and nobody found his body? There are so many open holes for what happened to Enoch, but they make the assumption that Enoch is that Enoch walked with God. But where's the proof of Enoch walking with God? There isn't any. So there is no evidence. And no, it said right there in the verse you quoted that faith is the evidence of things not seen. How can you have evidence of something not seen? I haven't seen Jesus, not his resurrection, but I believe in those things because of the evidence we have. But if you have evidence, then that is not faith. No, I understand what you're saying. The verse says evidence, but understand it's the evidence. How can you have evidence of things not seen? What is that? Is that called an oxymoron? I don't know. I might be using that term wrong. But how can you have evidence of something not seen? That would be like if it's 200 years ago, we have DNA evidence that this man murdered this man, but we don't have the ability to prove DNA, but we're just going to believe that there's DNA. Would that be acceptable in any court of law? It would not be. It's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. So you can't have evidence of something unseen. That's purely belief. And there is no evidence of his resurrection. There's no evidence. There's no evidence of Jesus. The Jesus of the Bible, there's zero evidence of that Jesus other than in the Bible. That's all the evidence you got. You have no other. I find it interesting that all these civilizations and beliefs were created by those who needed to conquer mental territory with physical attacks. And now we have multitudes lost in the great I am theory of their spiritual practice. Their narcissistic grandiosity was building to have a bigger population versus the next greatness. Religion is the first organization out there thirsty for likes and followers. It is, and it is. Once man realizes they can control people by claiming to have knowledge of some being or energy that is beyond people's ability to question it, it became a control mechanism. No. If you believe in the Bible, Josh, then you have faith in Enoch walking with God. You can't say that you don't. Your faith is not with Enoch. You have to believe that this God, that Enoch is walking with this God, to believe in Jesus. Because if you take away anything from the old, which your Jesus said, I take away not one tittle from the old. That means not one word, not one scratch, not one mark, nothing from the Old Testament. Then you are saying you have to have faith in Enoch walking with God in order to have faith in Jesus, because without the Old Testament, Christians don't have the New Testament. There is no Jesus without the Old Testament. Can't have it. You got to have it. So you have to believe that Enoch walked with God. You have to have faith in that. And as far as faith in Jesus, there's no, like I said, there's no evidence of him. And as Sheila saying, what is your evidence of Yeshua? They told you Santa Claus brought you toys. It required a lot of faith to believe that as a child. And look at where they got from. And as a child, you believed it wholeheartedly. You're saying that Aramaic says what? There are no Aramaic writings of Hebrew, of the book of Hebrews. It was written in Koine Greek. Every piece of Hebrew that we have is written in Koine Greek. We don't have any Aramaic. So the idea, so people, the first century Jews would have spoke Aramaic and Greek. Well, not all of them, but because not everybody's going to be bilingual. But because they had been under Greek rule for a number of centuries, and then they were under Roman rule, it would be smart of you to know Greek and Aramaic. Aramaic is like the native language. So it's like, if I went to Germany right now, they all spoke the native language of German, and then a large portion of the population also speaks English, right? Just the way it is. So Judea would have been the same at that time frame. But the writings of the New Testament were all written in Koine Greek. They weren't written in Aramaic. And yes, Starseed is right. The religion is ancient politics, and it was all politics. What's the evidence? What's the evidence of Jesus outside of the Bible? You can't do this. Okay, I know it's your first time on my channel, Ahava, but you got to state your evidence of the historical Jesus, because I will demonstrate to you that there is none. There's only a few things you can say, and those are not proof. Nature shows there is a God. We have historical archaeology that supports the Bible as having happened, that the Bible fits with reality. Just to name a few. Name them. Name them, sir. We don't do vague. See, the Bible does vague shit. We don't do vague stuff. There is absolutely nothing that proves the Bible. Now, did the Bible use historical backgrounds of places and some people? Yes. Does that mean that what the Bible wrote about these miracles and these other people are true? No. Just because the Bible mentions Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is a real place and was a real place back then, does not mean that Jesus entered Jerusalem under all the fanfare with the donkey and all that stuff. Titus entered Jerusalem with all the fanfare, as recorded in Josephus's Annals of Titus, but Jesus, there's no proof of him doing such a thing outside of the Bible. no evidence of something we were indoctrinated to believe in, and we trust in our families and preachers, and so we believe. We hold on to something we never had any evidence of. Right? I'm asking for the evidence. They ain't proved. They ain't giving no evidence. There are translation Greek that's not saying what you said. The oldest coining Greek translations of John 1:1 says, if you're talking about that, it says in the beginning, it has the in the beginning, the word was a God, and that God was towards the God. That would be the correct translation of it. Just because everybody mistranslated it afterwards, because you got to think about it. Once the Council of Nicaea in 325 decided that the Trinity, then that coining Greek was going to be translated into the way that you translate it now. But when you actually translate that coining Greek, it doesn't say that. And recognize, the majority of people couldn't read back then. So who was going to question it? Plus, you lived at a time frame where if the emperor said this is what it is, or the higher up said this is what it is, you question it, you get killed. So people didn't question it. You didn't have the freedoms that you have today. If Jesus was real, he's crazy enough to let God kill him. No, the thing about it is, if Jesus was real, then why was he questioning himself about killing himself when he knew that killing himself was the plan from the beginning anyway? Why would you get in the Garden of Gethsemane and question it? You already knew it if you were God. Right. And here's the thing. There are multiple prophets or people who claim to be prophets or preachers or messiahs in the first century who walked around and their name was Yahshua. Yahshua was a common name like John, like, Michael. It's a very common name. Tacitus, a Roman historian, Josephus, a Jewish historian, and Pliny the Younger, a Roman author and administrator, among others. While their writings might not focus entirely on Jesus, they mention aspects of his life, teachings, and impact of his followers. These references contribute to the historical acknowledgement of Jesus as a figure who existed in the early first century. So, let's go down the list. First thing, Tacitus. Tacitus never wrote about about Jesus. He wrote about people who were Christians who believed in a guy named Jesus. But Tacitus wrote this in around 118, 120 CE, a good almost 100 years after these supposedly events happened. He did not know anybody, nor did he have any stance on it. If you accept Tacitus' writings, Tacitus also wrote that Serapis allowed for Vespasian to heal a blind man and heal a man with a hand infirm, whose hand was infirm. So if you're going to give that validity of Jesus based on Tacitus, you have to give the same to Serapis and say Serapis existed as well, and that Vespasian through Serapis performed these miracles. You can't say, well, the Jesus part that he wrote was right, but the other one right wasn't. What Tacitus was writing about, and Pliny, and I'm going to throw Pliny in there as well because they're both the same, because they were existing around the same time, even though Pliny died before Tacitus. They were merely writing about that there were people who believed in this story. They weren't writing about the person. That would be like me writing about people who believe in the spaghetti monster on Venus, but on Saturn, but that doesn't mean the spaghetti monster on Saturn actually exists. That's just what people believe. So that is not validation of the person just because people believe something like that. If you took that line, then you would have to say, since people believe the earth is flat, then the earth is flat. Not because there's evidence of a flat earth, but because people believe in it. I'm not going to get into a flat earth conversation, just to let you know. Now, Josephus, he wrote about in his writings, you have 4 different Yeshuas in his writings. And the Testimonium Flavianus has been proven to be a forgery by historians as well as by linguists, that the writings don't fit. Is that testimony is shoved in there. It doesn't fit the before and the after of what was being written. Doesn't fit the style of writing that Josephus has exemplified. Josephus, being a Hellenistic Jew, would have never, more than likely, would not have written and said that this was the Christ, right? Because that would be outside of his belief system. Even though he had become Hellenized, he was still Jewish in his practices, never converted over to Christianity. And the fact that it's just a forgery. Earlier church fathers, Christian fathers, Irenaeus, Justin Martyr, they mentioned and talked about and used references from Josephus, but they never used the Testimonium Flavianus. It's never even used and spoken of until after the 4th century, like late in the 4th century. So this is why they believe that it was inserted during the 4th century, and the writing fits the style of writing in the later 4th century as well. So Josephus' testimony is a forgery. So there's those people do not present the evidence of a Jesus. They just present that people believed in this. Well, Josephus is complete forgery, but the other ones, Pliny and Tacitus, just are letting you know people believe this story. Just like people believe in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and that there were Cyclops and Sirens and all these other monsters, and that Achilles was this warrior who fought at the Battle of Troy, and that he was a demigod. They found the city of Troy, but that doesn't mean that Achilles was a demigod simply because they found the city, or the fact that Homer wrote about it, or the fact that people believed that this was a real event that happened. So those are not proof. Not at all. Oh, and I'm so disappointed in this dude. Bart Harmon, a prominent New Testament scholar and historian, acknowledges Jesus as a historical figure in his research and writing. Additionally, scholars like Paul Fredrickson and all them people. My problem with them, all right, and Jesus studies and accept Jesus' existence based on a historical event and critical analysis of ancient texts. I have 2 problems with them. Two. One, in their earlier writings, before they became popularized, they did not believe in a historical Jesus. But the pressures of becoming more popular across a broader spectrum, they start saying that there might have been a historical Jesus. But even in them saying that they believe there might have been a historical Jesus, they still disagree with the miracle making Jesus, the walking on water Jesus, the feeding people, all these people with a 2-piece fish sandwich, fish meal Jesus, the casting out demons Jesus, the Son of God Jesus. They still disagree with that, but do think that the stories of Jesus are based off of somebody who actually lived. Now, like I said, I accept that Josephus wrote about 4 different Yeshua characters, and there probably were 4 different, maybe 5, 10, 12 different people who were claiming to be the Messiah at that time, just like we got people claiming to be prophets and healers and all this stuff. We got people claiming to be messiahs. David Koresh claimed to be the return of Jesus. People believe that. People wrote about that. He preached about it. Does that make David Koresh the return of Jesus? Because he claimed it. It doesn't. But even if there was one person who was named Yeshua who did those things, does that mean that they did all those miracles? If you can find a historical Jesus, one person, there was one, that still wouldn't mean that they did the miracle stuff, that they were the Son of God. That just means they took somebody and made a story. John Henry was a historical person. Did he dig his way through a mountain in one day and beat the steam engine machine and died at the end? Paul Bunyan was a real person, but was he 50 feet tall with a big ass blue ox? No. Johnny Appleseed was a real person, but did he plant apple orchards from Maine all the way to Washington State? No. He never made it past Ohio. You see what I'm saying? So even if you got a historical person, they legendize the story to give it a bigger, it's a big fish story. And basically what people are doing is betting their existence on a big fish story. And this asking for yourself, and you'll see, you're just hearing your inner voice or your inner guilt or your inner, what's the word? Inner conditioning. Think about it. If you grew up in any society, whatever dominant religion is, if you do have an emotional give in to religion, you're going to give in to the dominant religion that's been around you, that you heard the most about, that's more common to you. And when you give into it, you swear you're hearing from that deity, but it always sounds like you, and it's always in your head. And I'm not saying it always sounds like you, but most of the time it sounds like you, but it's always inside your head. It's never audible that other people can hear it. I know I lost it a lot. It went too fast, too far. I know y'all didn't type a bunch of other stuff. Right. Tacitus was around. I'm not saying he wasn't. Tacitus wrote about Christians. I'm not saying, but he didn't write. That's right. He died in 120. He wrote that about the Christians a lot earlier, in like after people couldn't question it. And a letter that he wrote to Pliny, I think, was in 80, around 80 or 90 AD, when he wrote a letter to Pliny asking what should he do about these Christians because they're not upholding Roman law. And because he was a governor of, one of them was the governor of Syria, the other one was the governor of Turkey, I think. But he was asking Pliny how should he handle these Christians because they're not observing Roman law. So he's just writing that there were people who believed in this. No, the evidence is not saying he existed. The evidence is saying that people believed in it. That's what the evidence says. This is what people believed. There's no evidence of his existence. And you're saying I know you're adamant, and that's fine. You're saying that the point is saying Jesus didn't exist is not correct. What I'm saying is the biblical miracle Jesus didn't exist. Matter of fact, his birth doesn't fit actual history. Doesn't fit. According to your Bible, Jesus was born during the time frame of Herod the Great, right? But Herod the Great died no later than 4 BCE. Okay. But the Roman census, to which he was supposed to have been born under, didn't happen till 6 CE. So therefore, there's this gap of time where Jesus could not have been born during the Roman census and during the time of Herod. It doesn't fit. That birth story doesn't fit at all because neither one happened at the same time. So, like I said, other Yeshua characters, sure, great, but the miracle Jesus, nah. Grand Rising Norman, how you doing there, sure? Yeah, And that's the thing. Saying he did exist based on the evidence that you're submitting is just as is incorrect. You can't. A person doesn't exist because people wrote about it, about people believing in it. You have to have proof that that person actually existed. Like there are coins that has Pontius Pilate face on it. Not Pontius Pilate, Julius Caesar face on it. There are documents signed by Pontius Pilate during the time frame that he reigned in Judea. Those are things that lend more to the actual person existing at that time frame, not so much, okay, almost 100 years later, people believed in this story. That don't work. Because that's Paul Bunyan. That's Johnny Appleseed and all these other ones. I think David Crockett got some amazing. Was David Crockett the one who fought a bear or some shit like that? They told a story about it. You know. You can't prove a negative. And what was it? We have enough historical evidence that George Washington existed, but we know that his whole chopping down the cherry tree was a lie. It was something to use for, it was a political lie. They told that story to make people feel good about his personality and his character. But it was later discovered that that was political propaganda. Never chopped down a cherry tree, never saying, I cannot tell a lie, I chopped down a cherry tree. Never happened. But did George Washington exist? We have evidence of that. I know you playing Yoshi. Yoshi's like, what? Wait a minute. Yeah. And I remember in elementary schools, when I was in elementary school, teachers taught the cherry tree thing as if it was a real event that happened in the life of George Washington. It wasn't until I was in high school in the 80s that it was put out, and I was in AP American History in the 12th grade in 89. And that's when it was, no, this was a propaganda tool that was used for his presidential campaign. So Jesus, people just believing in it doesn't make it real. If that's the case, people believe in Zeus. Does that make Zeus real? People believe in Saturn. Does that make Saturn, and I'm talking about the god Saturn, that make it real? People believe in Enlil, Enki, Marduk, Baal. In the Bible, it's telling you how people believe in Yah. Well, when Yahweh was a Canaanite god, but it's telling you how people believe in these different gods in the Bible. So does that make those gods real since people believe them? Because you can't pick yours and exclude everybody else's when you have the same evidence that everybody else has. Did Zoroaster exist? Because we have people who are Zoroastrianism. People believe in Zoroastrianism. They believe in Ahura Mazda, Agra Mainyu. As Ahura Mazda is the god, the good god. Agra Mainyu is the devil. So because people believe in Zoroastrianism and they believe Zoroaster existed, does that make that religion true? Because that's the same proof that you have, that we can have a Zoroastrianism. Same thing go Krishna, Ra, Osiris, Isis, or Kiru and Aset, and Asar. The same thing go with all of them. Same thing go with every god. Every so-called god, there is no proof that that god actually exists. And I would love it if they exist. Just come on down and let us know. I mean, if you can be with the Israelites and as a fire during the day and during the night and a cloud during the day over the tent of meetings, if you could do it back then, do it now. If you can talk to Moses face to face, you can wrestle with Jacob. You can come in and commune with Abraham, and you can send angels and all that. Do it now. Why do they never do it when the people are writing about it? It is always people writing about stuff that they heard, but never at that moment. 125 different historians lived in Judea at the time frame of Jesus, and not one of them wrote about Jesus. I'm just saying, if this guy really want to prove himself, and with so many people on the planet not believing in him, show your ass up. Come on. Come down, prove it. That's all I'm saying. If he come down and prove it, he got my allegiance. I got a lot of questions. Hey, man, but you ain't going to get my allegiance. You got to explain this shit first. What trips me out are these kids that remember dying during war or in plane crashes. That's an interesting thing, but I'm still a little skeptical on that. Them remembering past lives like that. I would have to know more about the person individually to accept what they're saying. Like, it's worth investigating. I'm not saying it's real. I'm not saying it's fake. For me, there is not enough evidence to say yes, he or Israelites lived according to the scriptures. So without proof, along with the inconsistencies and contradictions, was too much. After a while, was too much. After a while, what am I doing? Yeah, like it's the lack of evidence that is the problem. As we've been going through on Tuesdays, going through this Old Testament, just all the things that they're claiming, there's no evidence of, right? And what little evidence there is, the evidence doesn't fit the timeline, nor does it fit, it doesn't fit the timeline, and it doesn't fit science. We are going to get to a part of the Old Testament that does start to fit timeline, because it's anything written from 780 BCE forward actually fits timeline. So once we start talking about Hezekiah in around that Hezekiah time frame on, it fits more of the timeline because they're actually writing things as they happen. Like Hezekiah and his dealings with the Assyrians are written during the time frame that Hezekiah was actually dealing with the Assyrians. Now, because he invoked God into it, it doesn't mean that this guy was doing these things, right? Like they'll say, oh, God caused if you hear it preached in church, they'll just talk about how this God wouldn't allow for the Assyrians to take over Jerusalem. But when you actually read it, Hezekiah bribed the king of Assyria by giving Sennacherib, whatever his name is, by giving him all this gold and silver that he took from the temple and gave it to the Assyrian king. So it's not God that staved them off. And I know the story is going to say that in the middle of the night, God killed all these Assyrians and they left. No. Before that, he bribed them and gave them all this gold and silver. And then the Assyrian king just left. And then the Assyrian records that they found in Nineveh, it just says that they was laying siege to Jerusalem. And from what we have gathered so far, because those sites are still being excavated, and then they just left. They stopped the siege on Israel. Most likely it's because they got all the money, got all the gold and silver. So they left. They say, okay, we good. But most of it doesn't fit. What is this one? The story of the Illuminatis? I don't know that one. I have to look that one up. What's that story, John? The thing about it is at least 2 to 3 decades went by. At minimum, 2 decades went by before anybody wrote about a crucifixion. Because the scrap that they have that they're dating and claiming to have been written around 50 AD, it's just a little scrap. It's a little scrap of Mark about this big. Doesn't say anything about his death and stuff. It just has a little inscription that is relatable to what they found in Mark. The more complete versions of Mark that they have are around 80 AD. So they don't, and it's written anonymous. I can't get it out of my face. You know the word I'm trying to say. It doesn't have a name on it. Anonymously. Oh boy, ever since they took this back to that. So no eyewitness account. There are no eyewitness accounts. No one who was an eyewitness wrote this. It is most likely that the Gospels were written by a combination of Herod's grandson, Philo of Alexander, and Josephus, who all were writing in that 80-90 time frame. And then the other thing is literature is never proof. You have to have more than literature to prove something. People wrote about Santa Claus riding in a magical sled, being pulled by magical reindeer, giving gifts to every child in the world. So that means it must have existed, right? Exactly. And then if you actually research Santa Claus, he's based off of like 3 or 4 different supposedly historical characters and a mushroom. He's also based off the Anamascara mushroom. But yes, that is literally the same argument. This is why I can't sleep. 3 Little Pigs. No. What's my man who wrote Aesop's Fables? Now we know it's fables, but there was a time where people actually believed Hansel and Gretel existed. There was a time frame when people believed that the witch was in the woods and wanted to cook them. There was a time frame that people believed that Dracula, who was a person, was a vampire, but that's just, how they legendized the King of Transylvania. So it's just like I'm gonna mess up some of y'all childhood, then I'm getting off this thing. I'm gonna mess up some of y'all childhood. I spoke about this last week at some point, but I don't know if anybody went and looked it up. But did anybody go look up Willy Wonka, the original story of Willy Wonka? With the kids in his bag. Did anybody go look up Willy Wonka? That's one part of it. Willy Wonka was a child murderer. Did y'all know that? That when he lured kids into his place and killed them. Did y'all know Willy Wonka? The guy that is based off of was a child murderer. Then when they wrote the story about him, Willy Wonka is a racist because he literally was a slave master. Because in the story that they wrote about the child murderer to create Willy Wonka, Wonka went into Africa and found a pygmy tribe and kidnapped them and shipped them back to his factory in boxes. And that's where the Oompa Loompas came from. Yep. Now, if you ask most people today about Willy Wonka. He's the magical chocolate maker candy guy who loves the kids, and he saved the Oompa Loompas from being killed by some beast and all this kind of stuff. But the true story, the literal person it's based off of, was a child murderer. Then the story that was written, he kidnapped piggies and shipped them to his factory in boxes and forced them to work in his factory. People will take a character and legendize the shit out of him. What? Sheila said she never watched him. I ain't gonna lie. The Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, it's a great movie. But it is hard to watch it knowing the actual history of it now. Oh, most real. Now you're here. We went over another part where your God sanctioned murdering the Amorite people and killed all the people. Told them, "Hey, can we go kill these people?" And your God said, "Yeah, go kill them." It's in Numbers 21. But we've already done it, and I'm about to get off. Grand Rising Sybil. I'm thinking your first time here. Thank you for coming. I think this is your first time, so thank you for being here. I say a lot of people murdered and raped in history have been rewrote to make children's stories of today. Yeah, if you go down that rabbit hole of the true story of some of these children's stories, you will be very disturbed. You'll be like, God damn. So I'm going to get off here. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, people, tomorrow. We're only doing Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays because I got to have time to do the other channels that we created, which is like Eat, Smoke, and Sip Travels. Please go join Eat, Sip, and Smoke Travels, Angelina's page of Really Did You Know, The Art of Tantric Love. I got to give these channels more time, and I got to finish writing this book. How to Find Your Divine Soulmate, so I can get started on the next book. So I gotta give more time to that. All right. So that's why we're gonna shift, and it's gonna be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is going to be the live at 1 o'clock because I'm not getting up early. But when I get up early, I want to do some of those other things and then do this. So it was great. I enjoyed you guys, and Ava and Josh Richards. Hey, don't feel like you're not welcomed in this group. You are more than welcome. Trust me. People like Most Real to tell you we don't mind respectful debates, and you guys were very respectful in everything we talked about. So it's good. It's good. We like that. We like that. It helps to sharpen everybody. And I appreciate all my regulars, everybody for being here. Continue to share the videos and post everything. I'm going to make about 2 more videos before I shut things down for today. Well, actually, before I get into writing, I got to do some writing. I'm going to make about 2 videos and post them. I did post a couple of videos before we started today. But yes, it was a time. So y'all have a great day. And remember, always, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and keep sharing. And I'm out. Hit the button, man. Hit the button.